Okay, I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll have a couple questions, and then I'll let you go for a minute or two and pitch whatever you want. Okay.
Good morning, Bitcoins. Good to see everybody out there in Idaho. How's it going? So I started the Mad Bitcoin Show in 2013 because I just wanted to talk about Bitcoin every day, and nobody was doing that. So I started making about 3-minute YouTube videos just to tell people more about Bitcoin. I made about 5 a week. I did about 600 episodes over 2 years. And then I moved to San Francisco and I started working for Bitcoin startups. What I'm working on right now is the World Crypto Network. And it's funny that he mentioned the McLaughlin Group because I do a show that's a lot like the McLaughlin Group called the Bitcoin Group every Friday on the World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.com. But I'm just really excited about Bitcoin. I think this is the technology to take us to the future. I've said a lot of really dramatic statements about Bitcoin. I really do think that it helps people control their money. If you look at the current money system, a lot of people have lost, if you held dollars since 1900, you've lost 80% of your value just based upon currency alone. So giving the people a sound currency is exciting to me, giving the people a pseudo-anonymous currency, and giving the people just a way to send value over the internet without using a corporation or a third party. Just everything about Bitcoin is super exciting. So I'm really glad to be here today. Thank you.
So Thomas, I'm going to give you a couple questions. When did you get your start in the space? How early on did you start the Mad Bitcoin Show, and how early on did you get into Bitcoin?
Well, just like all the Bitcoiners I know, nobody bought early. Everybody read about it. Everybody knew about it. I saw it on Slashdot when it was announced, but I didn't buy any. It took me until April of 2013 when I saw the price of Bitcoin spike to around $250, when I really knew that I'd lost the boat and that I wasn't going to be Bitcoin rich, that I just said, well, I'm not going to be rich, but maybe I can help people. Maybe I can spread the word. I can get on YouTube. That's something that you can do with just a webcam and a microphone and some of your time. And that's just really what I started doing. So yeah, April 2013 is when I really got into Bitcoin, and I've just been heavy into it ever since. And it's so funny to think that it's only about 3 or 4 years ago. And when I got into Bitcoin, yeah, 250 was the spike. It went back down to around $170. That just seems ridiculous today with the price back up to 1125. Crypto time just moves so fast. Like 4 years, like it seems like a lifetime ago. But it's great to be involved.
Yeah, you mentioned the speed with which Bitcoin moves. So one thing I say all the time is that in this space, 1 month feels like a year. And so it's not surprising when you see these guys, emancipate themselves from the space. It's like they can't handle the stress. Have you experienced that? You've been doing this for a real long time. It's almost the equivalent of like, 30 years worth of Bitcoin, and it's an uphill battle. It's a battle of attrition to convince your friends and your family and everybody else. Have there been moments where you feel like pulling your hair out and just shutting it down?
There's definitely been some hard times. I know if you look at the price of Bitcoin, we had this incredible valley now in between these two peaks. And what was funny about the price is I was still excited about Bitcoin. I mean, I own a little, sure, but for me, it's the technology and it's about just helping the world. So, however the price turns out, I'm fine with it. But for everyone else, they lost interest when the price went down. You can look at our YouTube views. You can look at the number of people we had making videos with us. Everything like that just went down. And now as the price is going back up, the interest is coming back. So I'm excited to see the interest come back. I already have several t-shirts from dead Bitcoin startups. It's really funny how quick it happens in this space. One day a company is the greatest thing. They have millions of dollars. The next day they've spent it all, or even worse in Bitcoin, they're hacked and they've lost it all. So it's a very, very quick moving space. Who's on top? Who's legit? One day, Mt. Gox, Cripsy. The next day, these things don't even exist. So.
Okay, so what is your feeling on when we think about regulation? It seems like some of the Asian countries have been moving towards a more pro-Bitcoin environment. You feel, when we look at New York, you feel a little bit like it's going to be difficult to work with Bitcoin there. What's your opinion of the best place, the best country? Like if I was going to start up a Bitcoin company, what's your opinion of where I should go? And where are you placing your bets as far as which countries will have the biggest impact and probably embrace it the most aggressively before anybody else? What's your opinions?
All right, so let's see. Bitcoin around the world. Best country to start a company in. A lot of people would say Switzerland because of the legal protections. Other people would say Estonia because of even more legal protections. That's where that's going. But as far as the bit license, a lot of companies just shut off New York. They blocked all the IP addresses from New York, and they just said, hey, we're a small startup. We're not going to hire lawyers just for New York. But what's interesting now is that we're seeing in Japan and China, like you mentioned, the Asian countries, that Japan actually has a bit license 2.0 coming out soon that sounds much more onerous than the original bit license. But this is a trade-off because official Japan might get involved now. We might see Japanese banks taking on Bitcoin projects instead of these blockchain projects. The other interesting Asian development is, of course, China. China got involved recently. As you saw, they kind of took control of their local exchanges. And at first, there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We saw the price go down. We saw the price go up and down. But now we've come out of it. China has said, we don't want leverage. We don't want no fee trading. And now they're kind of going after the foreign Bitcoins. So as always, if you trade on an exchange, you should withdraw them to your home at night. And if you trade in a foreign country, you never know what's going to happen to the computers that you're using to trade on. So I think there's still a lot of excitement for the US in Bitcoin. But if the laws did change, it's incredibly fluid. Like one day San Francisco could be tomorrow's Amsterdam. So we have no idea.
Sweden, obviously a great place now. Are we thinking Japan would be a pretty good place to start a Bitcoin business?
Japan's pretty strong. And you also have to remember what China said. One of their ministers went on state TV recently and said that Bitcoin is impossible to kill and that we should work with Bitcoin rather than trying to work against it or to control it. And remember, a lot of this is that the regulation is for bringing in the real money, bringing in the bank money. You could still use Bitcoin in an unregulated fashion. And whenever they talk about Bitcoin in a foreign country, they're also spreading the idea that you could use Bitcoin. You could give it a try. You could get your own wallet. You don't have to use a hosted wallet. And then you could just trade amongst your friends. And then pretty soon, who knows where that money came from. But yeah, there is definitely two tracks developing between kind of anonymous cash-like Bitcoin and then this new completely tracked kind of Coinbase type official Bitcoin, which they'll both be digital currencies, but one of them will just be much more trackable.
Okay, Thomas, we got two more questions for you from the crowd. Here comes the first question.
Could you say a bit more about how cryptocurrencies work? If you can't kill Bitcoin by government, how do they try and take it in and manage it?
Okay, well, I mean, cryptocurrencies basically work with the blockchain, which is a shared ledger. It's kind of like a big Excel spreadsheet that we all share. And if I was going to give $1 to you, it's like -1 from my account, +1 to your account. And that's a transaction. And we put that in a big pile with a bunch of other transactions. And every once in a while, we run those as a block. And the miners do that. And there's a bunch of math, and it gets really complicated. But basically, you and I are just submitting transactions to miners. And the miners are mining them. And they're putting it in the blockchain in a big ledger that we can check later and say, oh, yeah, my dollar's there. And now it's there. So based upon that system, if the miners are distributed in the world, now right now, miners are mainly in China, maybe Iceland. But right now, yeah, the miners are kind of distributed to China. But if it was properly distributed, you could keep sending funds in that system without a government, without a corporation. Now they could start to block the way that you could send funds, similar to trying to block email or trying to block anything. But then you would just send the funds in like a disguised transaction. You could send the funds inside an image. It would be totally hidden. Key out of the image, and there would be the funds. Ability to send value anywhere in the world, and it can't be shut down because shutting it down is censorship, and the internet dislikes censorship. So that's basically how Bitcoin would work and how it would get through the governments. How they're going to regulate it, they're going to regulate it through the banks. They control the banks, they control the money. So if you want to put your money directly from the bank into Bitcoin, you're using regulated Bitcoin. Coinbase is a great company, but they're a bank, right? If you go to local Bitcoins and you meet some guy at Starbucks or you meet some guy there at the meetup and you give him $20 for Bitcoin, that's real Bitcoin. Nobody knows where that came from. If you did it If you did it right, your $20, nobody knows where it goes. And that's the power of Bitcoin. But then the same thing is you get confused. If you put your $20 into Coinbase and then you send your money from Coinbase to a gambling website or to an illegal drug website, that could be tracked back to you. Useful on one, but not useful for the other. So you just have to be very careful with what you use your money for.
So we've noticed that some of the mining pools are starting to move out of China. Should we think of that as a significant event or insignificant?
Well, it's mainly about the cost of electricity versus the threat of censorship. I think that if they're worried about more censorship, that could be a reason to move out of China. The other reason, there's kind of a technical thing with the larger blocks that they want. Getting those through the Great Firewall of China is a difficulty. And then, but yeah, I mean, it would be good if they moved it around and if they had better energy costs. The problem is China has a lot of subsidized energy. China has a lot of power in general. So,
hey, thank you very much, Mad Bitcoins. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me. Like you said, you can check out my work at madbitcoins.com. If you want to try the World Crypto Network, it's kind of more serious, more discussion based. You can check that out at worldcryptonetwork.com. And I'd also like to take a minute and tell you about another project I worked on called ProTip. ProTip at protip.is is a Chrome browser plugin that scans web pages you visit for Bitcoin addresses. It times how long you spend on those pages, and at the end of the week, based upon your allowance, it automatically tips those creators with Bitcoin. And that's it. It's open source, it's free, you can edit it, you can download it, and it's available at protip.is. And it just takes everyone like us using it, putting 10 bucks in, tipping $1 a week to get this kind of online content rewarding going. Because a lot of bloggers, a lot of YouTubers, SoundCloud people, they never get any tips. But now, if they copy and paste their Bitcoin address in, and then if we use ProTip, we can reward them. So thanks so much for having me. And until next time, this has been Mad Bitcoins. Mad Bitcoins. Mad Bitcoins.
I love it. Thank you very much, sir. And give me the links and we'll pass it on. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.